Hello, dear friends, how are you doing? We are going to talk about architectural site analysis. Now, this is a very, very important topic that everybody needs to understand before they really start their design process. We're going to come up with a lot of videos like this. So, if architecture interests you or the building envelope and the surroundings interest you, kindly subscribe us. So, the first thing that you need to understand here is the site context. So, when I say site context, I'm not talking only in terms of the building, the site on which you're going to do the construction, but what I'm talking about is the areas which are around. How is your site surrounding? What do you have in the immediate vicinity or the neighbors? So let's say you have a stream of water flowing through the river, or you have a desert, or you have a orchard, or you might have an agricultural farm, or it could be in an urban area where you have a lot of houses around your site. So when you look at the site, you need to understand there is a context. Where is your site located? So that's very important for you to understand, and we sometimes also mention this as the characters of the site surrounding. So anything which is very predominantly standing out, this could be some historical minaret, this could be some well-known temple, this could be some salient hilltop feature, or this could be something which is man-made, this could be something which is natural. So you have some influence of anything rather which is giving the influence on the site. So that is important to be considered when I'm talking about site analysis. Also, there are certain features which talks about various services, like sometimes you have a high tension line which is right across, or maybe right on the side of your property. There could be a sewer line running through the house, outside the property of the house. There could be a rockery. So it's important to know what is your surrounding, or there could be some commercial activity, there could be a shop, there could be anything which could impact your design process. So when you talk of site, you need to see the surrounding first. Now once you see the surrounding part, then you should think of your site which is from inside. So now as you get into the site, you should first of all have the proper dimensions of the site, so you exactly know what you're talking about, because sometimes on the site you have boundaries, sometimes you don't have boundary. So visually you should be able to understand that this is how the stretch to my site ultimately is. Then you need to understand whether your site is a flat site, it is a contour site. There could be some part which is flat, some part which has contour, which can go upwards, which can go downwards. So when you see that, you need to understand that you have to deal with the site accordingly. Sometimes the road level is much higher and your site is lower, sometimes the road level is low and your site is high. So you need to understand how is your site really going to behave in terms of design, and how is it going to react to these elements and aspects which are in and around. So I cannot disintegrate the inner part to the outer, or to the outer, or from the outer to the inner part. They both are kind of gelled up together. And this is what we need to understand, and this is why we are actually trying to do site analysis, so that how the site is responding to the outer envelope or environment, and how the outer environment or envelope is surrounding to the site. They both are complementary to each other. When you get into the site, there are other aspects, like you will see the landscape. Now landscape will further be categorized into the hardscape and the softscape. So how you use them, that's something that you'll have to do very, very intelligently. Which side is the road, which side is the entry to the site. If there are two roads, one side can be entry, one can be exit, or you just want to keep one. So that gives you inflexibility of doing things. Then you need to understand the soil bearing capacity, which is very, very important, because unless you do that, you will not be able to take a call how high the building can go, or what is the load that it can take. Sometimes the building is not very high, but the purpose is such that even on the lesser floor, the load calculation has to be very strong. Let's say it's a go down, or maybe a factory, or maybe a press, or something like that, so you need to really know the soil bearing capacity. Once you know these basic things about the site, then you need to understand that how will your services around the site will work. So when I say service, predominantly I'm talking about electricity and plumbing and water supply. So first I'll talk about electricity, and then I'll come to water, to plumbing and water supply. So when I talk about electricity, first thing is that I need to know what is the entry point of the electric line into my property. Once I am clear with that, I need to understand if there is any transformer, if there's any distribution box, if there's any core cabling that is happening, where is my meter going to get installed, where is my MCB which is going to get installed. So coming to MCB is little early on the at site stage level, but then if you have that at the back of your mind, it gives you a clear picture as to how the circulation of that electric cabling and other things can really happen. So and yes, it's very important to know where would you be doing the earthing, because it's a pit which has to be digged up, and then the copper plate or everything goes down and all. So these are things which you need to understand in terms of the electric services. Then you have the plumbing and water supply. So again, for let's talk about water supply first. So water supply on a site can happen with two aspects. One is the government supply, the water which government is supplying. The other one is, you can have an in-house source on the site, which could be a well, which could be a bore well, so you can dig out water from there and use for your purpose. So you need to understand both the aspects, and you need to identify the marks, where the water supply is available for you on the site. Now with that, you also need to understand the outlet of these water. So once you consume this water, there is a wastewater which is produced. This needs to go out. So if there is a government sewer, then of course most of the time it is connected to the government sewer and it goes out with that. But at the same time, in case if that is not available, then you'll have to make the septic tank. So when you do a septic tank, it shouldn't be very close to the well. Maybe you have some other site constraints. So when you do the site analysis, you will get a clear picture of kind of do's and don'ts, positive spaces, areas where you cannot do certain things, or certain things which are not advisable there. So these are the things which will kind of give you a very very clear picture in terms of what is the potential of the site, and you'll be able to do a very very conscious decision as to in terms of the placements of these various services, and which will lead to eventually a better design on the site. Now let's come down to the plumbing part. Now when you talk of the plumbing part, you of course have one water supply and one the soil waste pipe or the water waste pipe, which is produced as I've spoken earlier. So in this, the supply is of course through the government or through the boring or these points which are available there. Now when you take it out, it's not simply left, it has to have a proper drain, and then you have certain chambers, and then you can now do a sewer treatment planned, and then this treated water can go to an underground water tank, and then can be used for agriculture purpose. It can be used for watering the plants, and then ultimately the drain, which is the water which is absolutely of no use, can be moved out to the sewer line, and so on. So you need to be very very clear in terms of the direction, in terms of the contour of the site, so that you can lay the sewer lines and water supplies in the flow as far as it is possible. So there are multiple aspects which come into picture, and if you are really liking this, I would really request you to kindly write it down to us, as in what all topics do you want us to further elaborate in terms of site study, because most of the many times students come in and say that sir, if you could provide a checklist, if you could provide a list of items that we need to go and see and observe, or if we can carry them with ourselves, it will become much easier. So I'd be more than happy if you can write it down, what kind of videos you're looking for, and we'll definitely work upon them. Now along with this, you need to understand two more things. One is climatology. So when I talk of climatology, you need to understand the site with respect to the nature. So you have a sun movement where you need to identify where does the sun rise, where does the sun sets, and what is the behavioral pattern, the kind of trees which are there on the side, the kind of shadows that they're making throughout the daytime in the winter season, then you have something in the summer season, so something like that. And then you have a sun path, and then you need to understand the temperature, because that plays very important role with respect to material also sometimes. So you should know what is the maximum temperature, what is the minimum temperature. Then in maximum and minimum also, you need to understand that for how many months in a year the temperature is extreme. It could be towards the cold, or it could be towards the heater hotter side. So that will really help you to understand the site context, the site, the behavioral pattern of the material, etc. Wind direction plays a very, very important role, because winds coming from certain direction, these winds bring in a lot of influence with them in terms of the temperature, in terms of smell, in terms of odor. So it is very important for you to understand that what is the predominant wind direction, so that you can orient your buildings accordingly, you can place your site amenities accordingly, and it becomes very helpful. Sometimes you really want to take away the smell from the site, so you want to place those things at the end, so that they just move out with the wind, and they don't drag into the whole side of yours. After you've studied all these things, you need to understand that there are bylaws of each place. So when you have bylaws, it talks about the front setback, rear setback, side setbacks, the permissible height that you're going to get. You have something called BAR, which is built up area ratio. You have something like ground coverage. You have something like total built up area. And then you have different definitions for different projects, like you have something for resorts, something for hotels, something for commercial, something for residential. So you need to be very thorough, because after all this study that you have done, and then you come down to a point where you say that this is the kind of project that I want to do on this particular site, then you have to have those figures in your hand, so that you could really come to a conclusion that this is the kind of area that I can really build on this site, and whether the project is going to be worth it, whether it is going to be feasible, it's going to be enjoyable, it's not getting too claustrophobic, and it's not too tight. All those decisions you can take. So once you do the site analysis properly, you will have all these ideas in your mind, and then you can definitely approach your design in a much better way. I look forward to have comments from you, and we would love to make more videos on this. Please let us know the topics that you are interested in. Thank you, and kindly subscribe our channel. Thank you.